Greetings, Marsh here, and welcome to episode 11 of my Pyanodons playthrough. In this episode, we are going to do the final things that we need for green circuits, including making acetylene so we can mine lead and zinc. Enjoy! It unlocks a new building, the gasifier, building that converts organic or fossil fuel based on carbonaceous materials into useful gases. So we can use coke and lime to get calcium carbide, and then calcium carbide and water will make acetylene and slaked lime. And acetylene is a powerful fluid at 1 megajoule each, but it's also a very expensive fluid to make because you have to put a lot of coke into it. So I choose not to use it as a fuel, but I suppose you could if you wanted to. Ultimately, we need that acetylene so we can mine lead. And interestingly, the recipe for lead is actually pretty efficient to start with, where it's only 6 lead go in to make a plate. And that also allows us to make solder with lead and tin. And there is a side research we can do, evaporation processing, that unlocks the evaporator, dries fluids to collect solids. And this is a way we can handle some byproducts, where we can take the slaked lime from the previous process and turn it back into lime and gravel. Also, it gives us access to some byproduct recipes. We're not creating tailings yet, but if we took tailings, we could dry it out into dust and acid gas. That acid gas could be further dried into sulfur, and then that sulfur can be mixed with kerogen to make tar. Otherwise, we wouldn't have anywhere to put the sulfur, so putting it into tar is a decent enough thing to do. And with that tailings dust, we can sort it similar to how we're sorting ash and soot into coal dust, titanium, and tin. So that will help us handle all of those resources. Let's let it research, and then we can make a plan for it, because how much acetylene we want kind of depends on how fast we want to mine the lead ore. You can see now that the production rate of Moondrops is starting to get pretty decent. And there we go, Moondrops are making it to the end now. We need about a total of 32 of them. And there we go. Move the belt down, and now we've doubled them to 4. And we will soon have exponential growth. We are not researching anything because a lack of wood. So I suppose I can't put off connecting these belts anymore. Although we are pretty close. Basically only have 10 more trees to make. And I was wondering why it wasn't sorting by how close we are, but you can use the sort by function here to say distance, and I feel like that's the most useful. Or maybe item count if you're doing something like looking for ash, but I would definitely want the closest thing to us to pop up first. And this is one of our wood users, because all wood comes from logs, so we have to do that first. So that means the belt has to come up through here. But with the upgraded turd, it's 10 wood for 1 log, and that's an incredible amount of compression. So it's a really good resource to belt around like this. Lack of splitters means we just have to insert it, and it's possible this belt might have something else on it. So let's just have a filter for logs. And now that we have extra logs, we can just place them on the end here. So if we were cutting down trees, this would put them in the right location to get consumed. And we're already creating a very healthy population of Moondrops. So just like that, we've doubled the population again. Okay, wood is here. And not that this machine needs to run, but in it goes. So searching again, well, that makes sense. That's the wood making setup, so that would be expected to go there. And the last place is our science packs. I really don't want to go straight through the middle of the factory if we can avoid it. And we have such a healthy bus line right here that I want to make use of it. Having the arrow here is kind of nice because it tells us basically the exact spot where we would need to go up, and it's essentially here, right? Pretty much. And there we go. There's all our trees. So that's a lot of chopping noises in there. A lot of very happy trees. And that means we don't need to have this in here anymore. We probably still want this to be in place if we ever want more trees. I guess I'll just put the seedlings in here and let them get used. But my general view is if you build something, you might as well just leave it in place unless you know for a fact that you're not going to need it anymore. And perfect timing. The logs got here. Everything's running. That is one disadvantage of researching things in real time, is that if there's any problems, it kinda takes a little while to fix, but I'm trying real hard not to research too far in advance, just to make it a little easier to understand what I'm doing. So many Moondrops, just like that, and that's enough. to double. So when deciding what your starter crop should be for any plant or animal, it's a little tricky. You kind of have to know, because each life form has its own life cycle. Some grow off of very few inputs, and others require a huge amount to get going. But I didn't want to make too many of them right now because our setup was hand-fed. But later on, when it's more automatic, you can have the initial machine just keep constantly producing creatures until it's obvious that the main setup is running much faster, and have robots deliver them and everything. Right now, we don't really have that luxury though, so we kind of have to guess and hand insert here. But that's a pretty even distribution of power right now, so there's not any one process that's just hogging everything. And definitely the steam engines are constantly running even when turbines are at their strongest, and that's what we want to see, just to make sure all of the byproducts have somewhere to go to be burned. Well, we have our research for lead, so let's calculate that and figure out how much acetylene we need. Looking at this here, this is a pretty good ratio where we have two limiting items here, a half belt of the lead and also a half belt of the input coke. And that seems pretty good because dealing with full belts of something is not easy with our current factory. Oh my goodness, so many moondrops now. Certainly all of these. In fact, it looks like we have enough just for the whole thing, really. It's a little difficult to walk in between these. Like, it's fine, but using the grappling hook makes it kind of awkward. But that's pretty close. I think we can just fully connect it and let it go. So the way that we deal with this slaked lime is we want another recipe that makes lime from it, and we need to put it in the right spot, and we give it priority by putting it above the other lime recipe and then saying matrix solver. So the first recipe grabs what it can, and then the second recipe makes up for it. Basically, we just did that to figure it out. We could have done it on a separate line, but it just tells us what the numbers are. And very, very quickly, this whole build is maxing out on moondrops. We're now growing hydrocarbon flowers. There we go. It is fully functional, and it will just fill up. So as of now, all of our alien life setups are fully seated and working properly. I really wish I had radars to look at all this stuff, but not yet. We will soon enough, but not now. Funnily enough, to build the evaporator, it actually requires the quenching tower, and we haven't actually used that for anything yet. It is currently sitting at our shrine of machines we haven't used yet. Since using it to build another building doesn't count, I am going to leave it there. Okay, then we need to decide, where are we going to mine from? Well, there's some lead, but we should probably search to be sure. And we've got two, and obviously this is the good one, as opposed to that one. It's nice that it's near coal, so we can supply the coal from that other mine. And yeah, seems good. But before building the mine, we should probably make the acetylene first, because no mining will occur without it. And this is a coke process, so it should probably happen somewhere around here. But it doesn't necessarily have to. However, it does make some carbon dioxide, and that is being handled here, so it does make sense to put it in here somewhere. Time to start clearing things out, and we're starting to experience normal Pi Factorio of stuff being in the way and having to mine it out of the way before you have robots. The ice map has insulated us from that problem for a while now, and it still continues to. So we'll see how this initial part works. Man, look how much the moondrops were using for a while there. Wow. They must have caught up by now, but in goes the lime for that part. So now we need basically a half belt of coke, and I guess we're doing that with inserters. So that'll do it. We'll go that way. And down it goes. Okay, let's see how this works. The coke first gets sucked into the calcium carbide machine, but they're also waiting on their lime, so they can't do anything. The coke makes it to the lime machine, and there it goes. It's a nice glow to that building. And it doesn't have to run at full speed, it's only running at 0.6, so it only needs to go some of the time. But the lime comes all the way in here, and then in it goes to make the calcium carbide, which then gets pulled into our acetylene machine. And there it goes. And it worked. Alright, well it's running, it's making acetylene, but of course it will fill up on the slaked lime very quickly, so we do need to process that away. And doing so is fairly easy. We only need one building. I was hoping that I would make this setup nice and narrow, so putting this here works against that, but also it's so convenient to just put it right here, so I'm going to. And that's what the evaporator looks like. But we can just go straight along here. There we go, it has a nice glow to it there, but it makes more lime, and that lime gets reused, and now it's creating some gravel, and that's a little annoying to get rid of because it's going very far away from here. And in fact, our oil processing bus here is going to find itself with a couple of different byproducts at some point. So I'm guessing we're going to want to have a mixed belt of byproducts because this only creates 0.32 of gravel, and that is not worthy of its own lane of a belt. So I think this is going to be one mixed belt, and we're just going to have to deal with it, I guess. This line is a little weird because of there, so let's put it on the bottom. And I was really expecting that this would be a lot of space, and we're filling it up already, so I might want to move these tailings ponds down and have more space. But for now, we'll use this slot. Really, the best place to send the gravel right now is to our concrete setup, and it's maxed out already, so looking good there. And it looks like we're actually using the full output of the coke here, but these machines aren't running. So why is that? It's full on anthracene. Ah, because they don't connect all the way. So it needs that. That. And that. And there we go. All connected. Production rate should be maximized. But there's our tiny bit of gravel. It gets pulled in, and in goes the gravel. Okay then, it's time to mine some lead here. And do we have any builds we want to use for this? Well, the most recent build is this, and you know, it seems pretty good. We'll probably want to look at the numbers here and change it a bit, but no point in designing something again. This one is new and improved compared to the aluminum setup, and I am perfectly fine with continuing to use it. And we probably want to try to place it in a way that makes sense. Although it doesn't actually need to be double-sided like it is. That does simplify it, because it means basically the entire top part and all of these furnaces aren't going to be required. I guess we can put this pipe kind of in the middle of nowhere because it doesn't really matter. But we do have this water pipe here. And how about we put a pump in here? Not that it's too important right now, but so this will go side by side with the water. I don't think the water pipe ended up needing a pump. This is going farther, so it probably will. So in it goes. It's going to be slow to fill, but it will. And the number is going up, so we can't check it out with radars, but the number's going up, so that must mean the machines are working. So there they go, starting to mine the lead. And we are going to have extra lead ore from soot processing, and we need to give it priority. So that's one more belt that's going to have to come in here from somewhere. And there we go. We've made a lead plate. And right now we don't have a use for them, but we will soon enough, so let's just leave them right there and waiting for us. We do have an extremely long belt we need to send up here. We could share the gravel belt if we wanted, I suppose. Oh, that's so much. We're actually filled up in our inventory. And we probably should. This is going to be a low throughput item, so let's just hook it up to the same belt. It does make the spaghetti more complicated in the sense more things are on each belt, but ultimately there'll be less belts. So if we put 5 inserters here, then anything that isn't the gravel will keep going, and then we can put this inserter here and essentially keep doing the same thing whenever required. And this belt is going to be kind of in the middle of nowhere if we put it up here. But I'm actually okay with that because we're going to have other logistics options that'll make this much easier. So this belt will essentially be temporary, and that'll just make life easier for us to just go around. And we probably do want to have some kind of container in here just because we'll be constantly producing this ore as byproducts of ash, but we don't know when we're actually going to need to use it. So it looks like things are running really slow right now. We don't have any acetylene. Wait a second. These are like 2 separate networks. Huh? What? See? Oh, you gotta look close. How did that happen? I don't have like the flow control mod or anything, so that's not something I could normally do. Well, it's fixed now. And all of our 3 byproducts here, we're actually starting to build up quite a bit of each. What about shale? Because that's been going for a while and I haven't checked on it. We're almost full on a second one. But I kind of want to keep going because this is useful fuel, so let's keep it running. So we'll see how this works. Yeah, seems good. We don't produce it this fast normally, so this one inserter is actually going to be enough. But it'll go up and then go to where it needs to. So let's just hook it up and yep, everything is running very aggressively right now, which is what we wanted to see. Awesome. Otherwise, we might as well continue research here, and there's not much left to do but tackle circuits. And green circuits are that kind of thing where pretty much your entire factory's output gets focused onto one specific thing. So it is definitely going to test you that if anything was lacking up until this point, well, you're going to find out. One thing I've been saving is fluid pressurization, because otherwise it goes into nothing but circuits. It gives us the pressure pump, and then that is capable of giving us vacuum, pressurized water, or pressurized air. So sure. And then here we go. A major milestone where the factory will basically be transformed after we have access to circuits, because things are going to start getting better around here. Gives us 3 new buildings, the pulp mill, further processing of organic-based solids, and the PCB factory, which makes PCBs. And talk about an expensive building. 715 copper plates and 1.5K of iron plates. So it's costly. And then a pretty neat machine here, the chip shooter, that will then put all of our electronic components into the PCB. And we have some new recipes here. We will finally be able to make zinc ore, and we have a recipe for saline water that comes from stone. And also we can do cellulose, which is wood and limestone, and this is a short decay item that it will decay in 10 minutes, so we'll need to work around that. But we have lots of electronic components here. Ceramic capacitors from ceramic and tin, high power resistors from coke, glass, and tin, just graphite from coke. And then we have vacuum tubes, so that's why we needed a vacuum. So the fact that these electronic boards are using vacuum tubes gives you an idea of their technology level. And we have formica here, which is treated wood, sap, raw fiber, and formaldehyde. Of course, these are all things we can make now. And the circuit substrate, formica, copper plate, and vacuum. And finally, the simple circuit board, which has all of that stuff. Formaldehyde from copper and methane, and the copper zinc battery, which is where that cellulose goes in. Also the zinc and the saline. So let's get that researched, and of course no point in going further until we have all of these circuits made. But we're going to have quite the plan to do. And this is something I think I should probably show in Helmod, just because it's pretty complicated and it's kind of the first time we've tackled something like this. It looks like we are chewing through the coke, doing it in a very efficient way and collecting these fluids as we do it. And we're still running on that tar that we started with. Power use is okay, remains fairly balanced. It seems like the high pressure furnaces and the ash separators are competing for the biggest power draw. And the fish turbines are basically running all of the time, which is what we want to see. So this is a good balance of turbines to steam engines. Okay then, electronics is researched, so let's build a plan in Helmod together. Our goal is simple circuit boards, and when you don't know a number of something that you want, you can just kind of pick something random. And in this case, let's just go with 1, because we have no idea. And then just go down the list, picking items. So we'll do the battery here, and looking at the resources, this is going to be something that's going to be relatively complicated. So we'll push it down into its own tier and link it. And then when we come in here, we can make some adjustments. Like, we probably want it to run on coke, and it's going to need cellulose, which comes from wood and limestone. And basically we're just going through each item and breaking it down into something that our factory can create. And we're not currently making saline water, but that would be made where our oil processing is, so we can work on that later. But then when we're done, we just come back. And I wonder if we can make these rows wider just so we can see more. There's really no reason not to do 10 if they'll fit. So we have our capacitors. That's going to be a multi-step thing, so we'll push it in, and then figure out all the things that it needs. And steam is going to be a common element in the factory, so we can just go with that. Air core inductors, we have our 2 recipes, but we'll want to do the better one. And that's multi-step, so we'll stick it in here, do the cable, do the ceramic again, and adjust this to coke because that's what the other machines are using. High power resistors, this one doesn't need to be pushed down because it's already base resources that we're using, although one curious thing we could do is instead of delivering glass, we could actually manufacture the glass on site. It's kind of a weird way of doing it, but if we send in molten glass instead, we can save ourselves from having a huge belt of glass. So I have done that in the past. It is kind of weird, but it works. So we'll do the substrate. We have the formica, the treated wood, and then that wood. Of course, we can do the vacuum anywhere, and the sap from the sap trees, making sure they have their modules, and they do. The raw fiber from wood. And these are 2 things that require wood, so we might as well push that down so the machine is shared between the 2 of them because it kind of goes from top to bottom. And we have our formaldehyde, which comes from methane, and then that will require the Moondrop seeds, and those come from Moondrops. Now doing this will create some Moondrops back, but ultimately it will be net negative. So we have an input requirement of Moondrops. And all of that looks good. Vacuum tubes does require graphite, so we'll push it in its own thing. And let's try to make the glass locally, because why not? Making the vacuum. And we have our solder, only 1 recipe to do it, and that's actually pretty straightforward, so it doesn't need to go into its own tier. We can just leave it up front. And some other stuff, like the saline water, we're going to want to make, and we actually have some choices. We can make it from stone or gravel, but those are kind of bad ways of doing it. It's more of a dump for stone and gravel than an actual good way of making saline water. Right now, especially because we have so much extra tar, that the best way to make it is just to do tar quenching, where we basically put a bunch of water and tar together, and it gives us soot, but mostly tailings, flue gas, and saline water. So that's the easy way to do it. And in doing that, we'll create some byproducts which we'll need to handle, but we don't need to worry about that right now. And in fact, we could probably just put that in a different build. So now that we have most of the main items, we want to look at, does this logistically make sense? For example, we have these 2 builds that are both making ceramic. So we potentially could combine that, just make it a little easier. So in doing so, we're basically calling ceramic a belted item. So we come back here, and then we'll make it, push it down, and then there we go. So that will combine some machines, and that seems fine. So now we need to look at all of these numbers and think, is this reasonable? Well, we certainly can't make 11 copper a second, but also logistically we couldn't deliver it either, because right now our factory is running on this half belt and half belt sort of thing. So we would actually have to change the way that things are belted. And because we still don't have splitters, running on full belts of something is a bit much. So we probably want to drop this back so we're only using at most 7.5 copper. That may seem like a lot of copper that we can't create because we're really only creating maybe less than 2. But the reason I'm okay with that is right after we get electronics done, we'll have a new tier of copper processing. And we absolutely could crank up copper to 7.5 if we needed it. And looking at some of these other numbers, they are a bit high, like lead at 1.77, where right now it's 1.25. The wood is surprisingly enough within our limits. So a lot of these numbers are a little high, but I'm actually fine with building it the way it is because for one, there will be a buffer in the belts, but also we'll get better technology to produce these resources faster, and that will then upgrade the speed of our setup. We basically just want to look through the setup and think, are there any obnoxiously huge parts in it that would be annoying to build? And for the most part, no. Definitely these 88 sap extractors is quite a bit, and also the wood processing units, although I think that is wrong because we want to make sure that we're not using the upgraded one because we haven't actually picked the turd that upgrades those. And that actually makes it so we require less of them. And the total amount of 0.25 Moondrops is actually only a fraction of what we can create now. So we'll have plenty of Moondrops left over. Yeah, I think this is pretty good. That this setup will grow with us, that as our factory's output increases, so too will our ability to make circuits. And in total, it'll be 64 megawatts, assuming it's going at full blast. And right now, our factory barely uses that, so it's going to be substantial. We have most of these resources already, but the two that we don't are zinc and saline water. So let's just do new builds for those. And here's the build. It's pretty straightforward. Basically just trying to crank out one belt of zinc. That's going to require 60 aromatics, which we are storing in a big tailings pond. And that's reasonable numbers. 30 miners about makes sense. And that gets us within the ballpark of the 2.21 that we need. So now we need the saline water. Because we are going to be processing some byproducts with this, we should actually do ingredient input so we can follow them down the line. And how about we just do it based on one machine for now? That will give us way more than we need. And here it is, where we get the byproduct of soot, which can just be processed away, flue gas, which we can vent, and then the tailings, which can go through the evaporator to turn into dust and acid gas. Then the dust can be sorted into coal dust, titanium, or in tin. Tin can go to get processed, and titanium we're just going to have to hold on to. The acid gas can be turned into sulfur, and then that sulfur can be mixed with kerogen to turn back into tar. And the reason why this number is red is because the input requirement is 250, but we get 37.5 of it back by processing away the sulfur. So we're looking pretty good. We've got some builds here. Let's start with the zinc plates. So where are we going to mine this from? Well, I believe that is the closest one. There is one down here though, but I think with the position of our belts and also the raw coal being right there, this one will be much better. And then right here, start putting the zinc onto the belt. Now this one is basically done, and we need a build. Is it anywhere close to the size of this one? Yeah, it's basically the same thing. So we can just straight up copy it. Now we have a very long aromatics pipe we're gonna have to send down there. Luckily we've been stockpiling it, so we have 300,000 of it. Just to keep all the pipes together, we should probably send it alongside these other two. Well, let's connect everything and see what happens. Seems good. Gets placed on the correct side of the belt. This is a very long craft. And there we go, I was waiting for our achievement, making zinc. And it'll just pile up at the end here because we don't know exactly where it needs to go yet. Eventually these will all fill up with coal, so it should be good. Now we need to do the tar quenching here, which means we're finally going to use this quenching tower. And we have now utilized every one of our available buildings. Okay, we have most of our machines here, but this tailings pond is starting to fill up again, and I really want to try to save all of this shale oil if possible. So it's time for another one. I have a feeling this is going to be a relatively temporary thing, so I'm fine with just kind of putting a pump in here. And we can kind of hook this one up too to fill this one up all the way to the tippy top. The fluid level is pretty incremental. Like, it does actually go up seemingly every 5% or so. Let's get it to 990,000. I do like just to leave the pumps here and just shift them with picker dollies so the pumps will be available next time. And there we go, 990. Okay, well, the machine to start it all is pretty straightforward. It's just the quenching tower. So in it goes. Very, very quickly creating all these things. Well, the flue gas is easy enough to get rid of. Just vent it. And we are creating some soot, which we'll want to put on a belt here. And let's just unhook it for now. The saline is what we want, but we're going to have tailings, which all have to be evaporated away. We do have a few of these, but we could probably get them pretty compact here. So we have most of these machines evaporating the tailings, but we have this last one here that's actually going to handle the acid gas and put that on an entirely separate belt. So let's see if it works. And it goes, making the dust, and that one is making the sulfur. And this machine can do 15 a second, so we're going to need 13 inserters, or essentially 14. It's filled up on two sides. And that is also going to create some junk, one of which has nowhere to go, the titanium ore. The others, we can just do a blacklist of titanium, and we're going to need 6 inserters. Let's block it off here for now. so we can follow everything and make sure it goes where it's supposed to. Since the saline isn't being stored anywhere, this isn't really going to run much. So we're going to have this sulfur, soot, dust, and the tin. Basically, this just goes to here, and I'm trying to make use of existing slots in the belt work here. Okay, all our stuff made it here, so we can check to see that it gets sorted correctly. So far, so good. Let's make sure that the dust and the soot gets sorted correctly. Seems like it. It's so messy without having splitters, but it's working. So now we just have the tin and the sulfur. A lot of empty belts, basically because they're handling a very limited number of byproducts, but they have to go somewhere. And I don't know if I'd necessarily like these machines being tucked in here, because it seems kind of narrow, but oh well. This ended up being more roundabout than I was expecting it to be, but in everything goes. So that was very little, but it seems like it's running well. And that's the end of this episode. On the next one, we are going to finally make green circuits. Thanks for watching. I'll see you later.